come in or not, what's going on. This is an open discussion round, okay? We have a lot of presentations going on here on stage with some experts from science, business, digitalization, of course, technology, and they're all going to try to show you where digitalization comes into play in all the different fields of business at Siemens. And now, like I said before, we'll be talking about pharmaceutical industries. How digitalization initiatives in the pharmaceutical industry or how you can benefit from digitalization if you're in the pharmaceutical industry, for example. And we're going to show you some concrete examples on how Siemens works together with partners in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm not going to do this by myself, or I'm not going to do it at all. I'm just going to introduce the expert. Let's give him a big round of applause. Here's Andrew Wytalk. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Chris. Hi, everybody. Hi, thanks for coming. Come in, if you want to sit down. Do you want to sit down? Come on. Come and have a rest for 5 minutes. Hi, everybody out there in on the internet as well. So, hi, my name's Andrew Wytalk. I'm from, well, I'm British, but I'm based in our competence center for the pharmaceutical industry in the south of Germany, in Karlsruhe. We accompany global pharmaceutical accounts, our companies, in the digitalization initiatives using Siemens software, Siemens solutions for digital and software solutions for pharmaceutical. What I want to talk to you about today is the pharmaceutical industry, give you a little bit of an overview of what's happening, what happens in our industry, the challenges, what this means for digitalization, and then some nice, concrete, exciting examples of innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. So, not sure how many of you are familiar or very in the detail of our industry. There are three main phases, right? Development, so that's the molecular research, finding a new molecule, doing the clinical trials, proving that these drugs will work. Then you go, once you've, and that can take 6, 7, 8 years sometimes, very collaborative, iterative process. Excuse me. The second part is the primary processing. So that's the manufacturing, these big sort of tanks, the sort of bulk primary processing or active pharmaceutical ingredients. And then finally, the secondary processing, which is putting them into tablets, into syringes or bottles and stuff like that. So that's quite the three major phases. And what we show on our booth as well at the PharmaCube are different solutions or examples of digitalization for these three different parts. Come on in, sit down. You want to sit down, have a rest? Yeah, you can leave before the end as well, huh? I won't make sure you stay, huh? The challenges in our industry are also the same as some of our other industries, but what does it really mean? So thinking about efficiency, becoming more efficient. Traditionally, people don't think or see the pharmaceutical driving efficiency, but they are now because, and that's the fourth point, it's often been a lot about regulation. Regulation is really the key thing of if you don't have the processes in place and if you don't show to the authorities that you produce your drugs in the right way, then they don't give you a license and they stop your production. And if you can't produce or you can't sell, then you don't really do very much as a company, right? Also, there are challenges in time to market. I mentioned around the time from research and development right through to production, and of course, flexibility. And flexibility I'll come on to later when we get down to the flexibility of a single batch per patient. Pharma, like some of our other, we're looking at this idea of getting smaller batches, more personalized batches, so it becomes a much more, this flexibility is really, really important. So how's technology driving these changes? How is technology driving that change in our pharmaceutical industry when we talk to our customers? So very briefly, and again, keeping it at quite a high level, some of the challenges are, or the key trends, I should say, are around continuous manufacturing. We have an example, paperless manufacturing, taking paper out of the process, and I'll go on to those in a little bit more detail. But other trends that we're also talking to our customers about, 3D printing. Okay, it's not really a Siemens solution, but the point of 3D printing, tablets are now starting to be printed, yeah? So there's an idea at the moment from some of our customers that in the future, maybe there'll be a printer in the pharmacy. You go into the pharmacy, you get your own printed pills. Like, this is the recipe that I want, this is the formulation I want, and they're able to give you your own medication like they did 150 years ago. So it's actually really funny how that goes back to before. Data, analytics, simulation, robotics. These are also key things. I can go into detail, but I think the most important thing for me is robotics is becoming more and more prevalent in pharma as we try to replace or help the manual operations and the workforce. The transformation of our industry around this technology is, for our customers, is really about using technology to get a competitive advantage. Thinking about technological distinctiveness with a longer-term outlook and longer-term investments. I think this is the same for other industries too. But then we think about transforming the plant. Pharmaceutical plants are slow to change, have been slow to change, and then we think about the actual network is slow to change as well, because it takes time, because of that regulation, to really change things and transform. The final part is around, also around the network, is a very complex network of suppliers, third parties, contract manufacturers. Many companies, when they discover a drug, some of the bigger pharmaceutical companies, their real strength is actually selling the drug rather than necessarily making it. So there's a lot of production under license and so on and so forth. And finally, I find actually the most interesting, we talk about digitalization, we talk about robots. What about the way that people are changing? Labor modernization, the way that the operators are working in a plant. One of our plants that we were at recently, they've been introducing a paperless system, which I'll talk about later. And one of the hardest things when they introduced it about 10 years ago was training the workforce how to use a mouse, how to actually work with a computer, because they weren't used to working with a computer. And simple things like that are changing the way they work. We take that much, much further when we think about robotics and machinery and all this type of stuff. So I'll talk about that in a little bit later, and we're working with a company who's really thinking about ways to make that experience more interactive and more modern. Huh? Do you guys want to come and sit down? No problem. Huh? You're allowed to leave before the end as well if you want. So come and sit down, rest those weary legs. Some of the concepts, the purpose of my presentation is not just to talk about trends and challenges. That's an introduction. What I really want to talk to is about some examples, some concrete examples of what we've really been doing. This paperless manufacturing, come on in, no worries. Paperless manufacturing is what I was mentioning earlier, is the idea of recording the information on electronic devices. In the pharmaceutical, the production of a batch of material or of pills or whatever, there's a lot of steps that have to be recorded. You have to show the regulators, you have to show the quality department has to show that everything has been done perfectly, and you have all the different details about the expiry date of the raw materials, about how a machine was working, because we need that traceability because of the safety aspects of using drugs. Huh? And so what they often do is they have a lot of this on paper, and you can have a batch record which can be 400, 500 pages long, maybe even more, I've heard of others. And when you have such a lot of paper documentation for a batch, it takes a long time to go through that from a review perspective, but also, are we sure that their people are filling it in correctly? Software like we have here, Somatic IT, EBR, can actually help to guide the process, guide the people to control the way that things are happening. Also get information about that expiry date, about which equipment's available, has it been cleaned, this type of stuff. And so that quality part and the idea of being able to review what's happened much, much more quickly is really, really a great benefit. Huh? Paperless manufacturing is really about integrating systems as well. We talk about integrating recipe and workflow from different systems, especially from an automation system. If you imagine how when you make a cake, you might use a food processor, you have the manual steps of weighing and weighing the ingredients, choosing your ingredients, then you put it into a food mixer, you press the button and away goes some kind of a recipe, an automated recipe. It's the same idea for us here in terms of really being able to manage through that manual process and then the automated process, bring all the information together and have an ability to be able to do this, review by exception, by having integrated deviations and appendices, and as well the HMI, not sure if you know that, the human machine interface, or what the operator would actually see in his plant. Huh? So, guidance, control, review by exception, these are really important points. As well as paperless manufacturing, one of the other things that we're looking at the moment is continuous manufacturing. This is a trend in the industry for the last 10 years or so. And the real challenge here, again, it's often easier if I use the food example, is imagine you're trying to mix the ingredients for your cake and you're mixing, say, sugar, flour, and salt. Well, you might not put salt in your cake, but these are 3 different ingredients. And to get that to mix perfectly and to be absolutely consistent, and to be sure that they're absolutely consistent, you need to do the analysis, the type of stuff we do with these infrared controllers, near-infrared controllers, and then you need to have the information coming through. So we use a control system and then a technology called PAT, Process Analytical Technology. Siemens is one of the leaders, if not the leader in the world, around process analytical technology. And we're able to measure and understand exactly what's going on in this continuous process as it comes through. So this is quite a unique challenge to our industry, and something that Siemens is really leading the way in. And as you can see, we have the first FDA as the Food and Drug Authority. That's not what it's called, sorry. Food and Drug Administration from the US, who have now approved the use of continuous manufacturing. We're working with a company in Puerto Rico on drugs for AIDS, yeah? So these are now being produced continuously. This is not about your headache tablets necessarily, large scale. This is about just being able to reduce the footprint and be able to release the product in real time. Another example, which I think is quite interesting, or we think is interesting, is the idea of single use. So you can see this on the booth. We have a bioreactor. The big challenge with bioreactors is often the contamination. In pharma, if you contaminate a product, then you have to throw the batch away. That can cost millions and millions. So one of the challenges is cleaning. By using a plastic bag, and actually producing in a plastic bag, it's a bit like in the kitchen, yeah? So you don't change your bin, you don't clean the bin every time. You use a plastic bag to reduce the cleaning time of your bin in your kitchen. It's the same idea here. So you use single-use technology. It's about setting up it's using a plastic bag. The biggest challenge is actually setting it up and configuring the plastic bag. So we have software which accompanies us all the way through. Come and sit down, guys. You must be tired after all that hard work you've been doing, right? So reducing the cleaning times and the changeover times. That's really cool. Really important. The next point, remember I was talking about working with the people, and I'm talking too much, I'm running out of time. Intelligent, immersive manufacturing. GSK, company in the UK, we've been working with them to think about ways to improve how the operators are working and the way that they can access and interact with data. Here's an example of a dashboard coming from our XHQ software, but we're doing lots of other really cool stuff with them around using our control systems, using our software to really bring the information together and present that and work with that. I invite you to note down the art of the possible, demonstrating the art of the possible. Look at Art of the Possible and Siemens, and you can find on Google, through Google on some articles on our website about that. My final example, and for some of us one of the most exciting ones, is the arrival of personalized medicine. This is not personalized headache tablets, but personalized cancer vaccines. So after you've had chemotherapy and your cancer has hopefully gone away, there is a process now to have an individualized vaccine which is based on your genetic profile. We work with a company called BioNTech, a German company, and we're helping them to bring down the cost of that individualized therapy. It's not commercially viable at the moment. Well, it is, but it costs tens and tens of thousands of euros per patient. And so we want to help them to bring that down and really make that company a big success. So again, guidance, planning, using the data, helping the operator, helping the company to really use software and digitalization in the right way. Excuse me. So that's me. These are some of these examples. I can't tell you everything I'm so excited to talk about here. You have to come down and see us on the booth. We talk about these examples of engineering, of vaccine production, of paperless, continuous. I hope it's given you a bit of an interest. I hope I haven't spoken too quickly, but there's so much to see and so much to hear about. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching, and that's my last presentation of the week.
Yes. Big hand of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Must be because you've been playing with the